Is Brent Venables really it for the Oklahoma Sooners? Yesterday, obviously, an embarrassing loss at home to the South Carolina Gamecocks, 35-9, a weird score there in a game in which, Oklahoma never led. Let's just get that out of the way. They were down by 20 or more the entire game. Went away from Michael Hawkins Jr., who his first, I believe, he went 3 of 5 for 18 yards, 2 interceptions. His first pass was literally intercepted. Then his it was his fifth pass. He got hit, at the line of scrimmage, threw a horrible ball right to a South Carolina defender, got picked six. He had a fumble as well. Jackson Arnold comes in and plays better for sure. Finished with 18 of 36, 225 yards, a touchdown, a QBR of 19.4. Again, Jackson Arnold, just not that very good. Give South Carolina a lot of credit. But this was after an embarrassing loss against Texas, 34-3. It was 21-3. I know other Oklahoma fans thought that they were going to make a change at quarterback for Jackson Arnold. They never did. And Jackson Arnold was supposed to be the truth for Oklahoma. He's supposed to be the savior. You get rid of Dillon Gabriel, one of the worst coaching decisions you will ever see. Dillon Gabriel, top 5 in Heisman odds. Look what he did yet again. I know it was on the road against Purdue, but come on. Dillon Gabriel has put up a clinic every single season. You throw him away, as well as Levy. Levy runs away and accepts the first job he could get, and that was Mississippi State head coaching job. He's got a future at Mississippi State. I know they're 1-6, but if you've been watching Mississippi State, they're getting better and better every single week. But still, throw both of those guys away. Brent Venables, offensively, the decline in Oklahoma's offense needs to be studied. With Lincoln Riley, this was all offense, no defense. With Brent Venables, it's all defense now, no offense. And Oklahoma's staring down a situation in which they will play potentially 4 top 15 teams at Ole Miss, who debatably should be top 15, could easily be 7-0. They found 2 ways to lose. That's a noon game, mind you, this upcoming Saturday. Oklahoma already is a 17.5 point underdog. So that's not a good look. You play Maine, who cares? You should win that. At Missouri, home against Alabama, and then at LSU to finish up the season. So 5-7 is a legitimate 5-7 is probably more favored than not here, as the South Carolina game was a huge game for Oklahoma to potentially bounce back and save their season. You already had that game against Auburn, in which you should not have won the game. You got outplayed. Auburn found a way to lose. Auburn has done that 4 times this season now with what they did yesterday against Missouri. But we're looking at a situation in which Auburn has a better quarterback situation than Oklahoma. Oklahoma's quarterback situation is a joke. However, this offensive line for Oklahoma is one of the worst in college football, and the decline in offensive line needs to be studied as well. Brent Venables, the recruiting for Oklahoma has been heavily towards the defense, but still you were able to keep a 5-star quarterback in Jackson Arnold, a couple 4- and 5-star offensive linemen, and the offensive line has just been atrocious. In fact, the offensive line is the worst in the SEC, and it might not even be close because a lot of these teams in the SEC have fixed some of their issues. Oklahoma and Auburn are the 2 teams that haven't, and you can make a case that both those teams are 2 worst teams in the SEC, with Mississippi State starting to look better. Mississippi State obviously 1-6. They have the record to be the worst. But like I said, Josh Levy is starting to find something in Mississippi State. They're going to upset somebody here relatively soon. Luckily enough, Oklahoma doesn't have to play them. If Oklahoma and Mississippi State, I'm being dead serious, if Oklahoma and Mississippi State lined up against each other, I would actually probably take Mississippi State. That's how bad Oklahoma is, and the season for Oklahoma is just starting to unravel to be even worse. Now let's talk about Brent Venables' first year. Mind you, he's a top 10 defensive mind in college football. I still believe that. It's obvious. I don't even think that's a debate. Lincoln Riley, on the other hand, was a top 10 offensive mind. So Oklahoma, their last 2 hires, ended up to be two coaches who don't have head coaching experience. However, they are top 10 in their said scheme. So defensively, this is what Brent Venables is. He's a really good defensive mind. Year one, you go 7-6 in a situation where Dillon Gabriel was out for what, 4 or 5? No, I think it was 3 or 4 games. But the team defensively was horrible. Last year, Oklahoma looked better on both sides of the football. Oklahoma fans still blame Dillon Gabriel and Josh Levy for the lack of defense. Just putting it as that. In Oklahoma's biggest games, their defense just didn't show up. Now, I will give them credit where credit is due. Brent Venables outcoached Sarkisian last year, got that big win in Texas and Oklahoma with the win against Texas. Found a way to not make it to the Big 12 title. Lost at Kansas and at Oklahoma State. 2 terrible losses there. Anytime you lose to Kansas, that's a terrible loss. And in Oklahoma State, you now have 2 losses on the road at Oklahoma State in a row. Haven't played them. You probably never will play them ever again. Don't really understand that. Wish you guys would, but that's neither here nor there for this video. Then you lose the bowl game, but that's after you kicked out Dillon Gabriel and Josh Levy. Jackson Arnold looked terrible against a pretty good Arizona team. They were getting better and better. Statistically proven defensively, Arizona was mediocre, but in the last 7 games, their defense was really, really good. So a lot of people gave him a pass for that, but it just came out of the floodgates. Week 1 against Temple, he didn't play well. Houston, y'all should have lost to Houston. Tulane, he didn't play well. Benched against Tennessee, who legitimately has a top 10 defense, I mind you, but still, Auburn game didn't look well. Offensive line looked terrible in pretty much all year long. Oklahoma can't run the football. The offense has made a major decline as passing the football, that's one thing, but not being able to run, which was supposed to be Oklahoma's bread and butter with Barnes and Salchuk, has just been a joke. Salchuk just can't get anything going, but a lot of the blame does come on this offensive line, and it's questionable. Now, these wide receivers, there's talent on Oklahoma's wide receiving corps. Now, mind you, 4 or 5 wide receivers out is a huge thing. It's a huge deal. But still, you would expect your offensive line to start stepping it up, and week after week, disappointment after disappointment, here we are, Oklahoma staring down 5-7 with the back end of the schedule being the toughest. What is Oklahoma going to do? Number one, they're probably going to stick with Jackson Arnold going forward, but really, forget about this season. It's the future. Can Oklahoma somehow, some way get to 6-6? That would mean upsetting one of Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU. I think that's very unlikely. Unless, I will say this, unless Alabama had quit. Alabama has 2 big games in a row. Well, really 3 if you count the Tennessee. They're 5-2 on the season. If Alabama loses one of those 3, I really think Alabama's going to quit, to be honest with you. With how this team has acted with their program, they have some issues going on right now. Even though they are 5-2 and probably into that top 15, Alabama might quit, and that's where you could catch Alabama napping in a good situation. But other than that, I don't see you going on the road against Ole Miss. I think you're going to get blown out. I don't see you going on the road against Missouri and winning, and I definitely don't see you going to Death Valley your first season in a situation where I don't think any team in college football will beat LSU at LSU. That's how good LSU's home field advantage is, and that's how well they play at home. Ole Miss should have done it, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, the future for Oklahoma is not looking bright. It's actually looking like a decline. Brent Venables clearly on the hot seat. I don't think you fire him this year, but if you go into next season, let's say things do pan out like I said they would, 5-7. You go into next season in a make or break season for Oklahoma. Would 6-6 even save his job? I don't think so. He's put this team in a tough position because of this offense. Offensive line's terrible. Quarterback situation's terrible. Wide receiver situation is just not good either. Scheme itself, you can blame it, but at the same time, you just don't have any protection. You don't have any rushing lanes. Oklahoma is a mess right now offensively. The saving grace for Oklahoma has been their defense, but there's only so much your defense can do. You found a way to give up 35 points in a situation where you only gave up 250 yards. That's actually the first time this season that has happened. And oh, by the way, you scored 9 points. Yeah, Oklahoma is in for a rude awakening. We said this. Our SEC fans said this coming into the season. And Oklahoma fans said, "Listen, we could go 8-4. We're preseason top 15 for a reason. Go 9-3 as well. Maybe sneak into the playoffs, but we're definitely going to establish ourselves in the SEC." Brent Venables said it, and look what's happened. You can't get a first down against pretty much any team. Can't score. Listen to this. Oklahoma has scored 15, 27, 3, and 9 in your 4 SEC games. That's what? 12, 39, 54, divide that by 4. Looking at what? About 13 points per game in SEC play. Only managed 16 points against Houston. This is a brutal season. Now, like I said, finishing off at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is top 15 defensively. Might not even score in this game. It's this future for Oklahoma is not bright, and the saving grace could be that defense. But when your offense is this bad, worse than even last year's Iowa, I don't know what Brent Venables is going to be able to do here. He's going to have to attack the portal. Recruiting has been solid, I would say, for Oklahoma. But now you're in the SEC. You're going to have to compete with your Alabamas, your LSUs, your Georgias, Texas, even obviously A&M, Florida. Whenever Florida figures out their coaching decisions, even Ole Miss now. There's a lot of programs and hurdles for Oklahoma, and I just don't see Brent Venables being able to get it done. He's definitely on the hot seat. Like I said, I don't see him getting fired this offseason unless they somehow lost to Maine, and unless they lose out somehow. You lose it to Maine, that's a fireable offense in my opinion. But yeah, Oklahoma fans, let us know what you think. This is a very tough situation for Brent Venables. I don't think he's going to work out. And an unfortunate situation here with some of the injuries, but at the same time, there's no bright side offensively. There's none. I was going to say it was Javonte Barnes, but he can't get anything going with that offensive line. The offensive line, for me, is number one. That's the number one issue for Oklahoma. Number two, and it's a close second, is the quarterback situation. Once again, you got rid of Dylan Gabriel for this. For this, mind you. You did that. Brent Venables did that. So, Oklahoma fans, it's unfortunate, but let us know what you guys think. Like I said, I hate to be like this, but I don't think Brent Venables is going to work out. I see a lot of Oklahoma fans now starting to come to that realization. Last year, you really should have been, the past couple of seasons, you should have been building for the SEC. You got that big win against Texas, but had nothing to show for it. So, Oklahoma in for a rude awakening. And doesn't look good going forward in the SEC with that terrible offensive line, terrible quarterback situation, and wide receiving core is just depleted. Let us know what you guys think, and do you, Oklahoma fans, do you think Brent Venables is going to work out? Do you think he's going to get fired? I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace out.